Hello there, it's always good to be back for yet another episode of The Digest. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Francesca. Now, the Intercity Bus Terminus in Zambia's capital city, Lusaka, is known to be the most trusted source of transport that connects to all corners of the country. But now we discovered that it is slowly turning to be a drug connection to different parts of the country. Aside transportation as the core business at the terminus, it has now somewhat seen some mushrooming hubs for drug trade. The Digest team sent an undercover reporter to investigate the drug trade and just shows how easy it is to purchase drugs at Intercity Bus Terminus. Watch this.
Intercity Bus Terminus in Lusaka, Zambia is centrally located and attracts different people in society because it is the main transport hub for those leaving or coming into Lusaka using public buses. Aside from the normal selling of food items and merchandise, the country's biggest bus station also trades in illicit drugs that one can purchase very easily, as we will show you in this documentary.
Cheese. What quality wakam? Which matches wakam? Como é que vamos fazer direito assim? Não, quanto como é cheese? Vamos, tamo quanto como é cheese? Big, no light. Mommy, how much is?
Around the terminus are three of some of the country's biggest higher learning institutions, namely Zambia Center for Accountancy Studies ZICAS, National Institute of Public Administration NIPA, and Evelyn Horn College. The activities at Intercity Bus Terminus have seen the drug dens having most clients coming from these higher learning institutions. Sadly, some students are bringing the drugs in the institutions by being what they are calling plugs to their peers who are using these illicit drugs for recreational purposes. The Digest undercover reporter visited one higher learning institution with a hidden camera to see exactly what happens among students in the habit of abusing drugs on campus. Our reporter pretended to be a student wanting to buy marijuana and found the so-called plug ready and willing to sell.
Alma box hapa. These women, they don't steal, right? These women who? They don't steal. So, when is Kata money in your camp? Oh, so I look and say, quite. So, Chaco. I mean, talk one. I want you to, because this is a quan. Now, can you 7? Can you give me? Now I've already got one. I wanted another. Now I've got a second back.
The Drug Enforcement Commission have given their position on what is happening regards the illicit sale and use of marijuana and other illicit drugs in higher learning institutions. The Commission, in its response, according to Matthias Kamanga, the Public Relations Officer, is, as I quote, "The Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, is aware of the drug trafficking and substance abuse that has been happening around Intercity Bus Terminus area. However, we are not aware of anyone openly selling drugs in the terminus or indeed the surrounding areas. They do it discreetly." The response further says, "The Commission has been conducting covert and overt operations in the area whenever information has been received about such activities and possible suspects. Several arrests have been made, and in many cases, suspects have been taken to court and convictions secured. However, it has been observed that every time an operation is conducted, the activities go down for a while and pick up after some time." In order to curb this problem, the Commission has planned various sensitization activities in order to bring awareness on drug trafficking to people that operate in the terminus. But further operations will continue in the area, and the Commission will not relent in making arrests of all those found abrogating the Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Act, Chapter 96 of the Laws of Zambia. End of quote. The Digest, in its quest to get more factual information, spoke to students themselves, that is both users and non-users, from the three named institutions. A non-user student vying for a diploma at one of the institutions whose identity has been withheld speaks to the problem of drug use and abuse.
On the issue of drug abuse, I will agree to say yes, because students actually do abuse drugs. What I think attracts students to abusing drugs, I would say there are like so many factors, peer pressure being the common one, but as well as just for the sake of trying out new things, because we're like young adults and we tend to wanna explore. Personally, I won't say it's a trend, but when it comes to peer pressure, I would say it's a thing where somebody would just like to fit in and have people they could call their own. Because I feel like personally being a young adult, it's not everybody that I can actually talk to, and I don't feel like it's not always that I can just approach some adult if I need anything. So I would tend to go and seek, some attention elsewhere from my friends, people that I think I can relate to.
Melody Zulu, a non-user student spoken to in one of the institution's car park, could not dispute to the fact that there are students who use drugs.
I'd like you to tell me about young people, students like yourself, that are taking drugs in school. What is your comment regards that?
Well, I wouldn't say that there are no people who take drugs in school, but I think there are people who take drugs in school. And I think each one of them who take drugs, they have their own reasons. Yeah. Some may be peer pressure, others they just do it for pleasure, but they have their own reasons.
Have you at least noticed some people that are taking drugs in your institution?
Yeah, yes I have.
How is it like?
Well, usually they walk in groups, then sometimes they smoke even outside, like in open places. Then sometimes they smoke from their rooms.
How do you know that that group is participating in illicit or drug and substance abuse?
I think you can tell, because if they're drinking, they usually have bottles everywhere around them. Then if they are smoking, you can tell from the smoke. Yeah, the smoke it produces, and sometimes they smell.
Two students we have named Mishek and Joshua are from different higher learning institutions. They both smoke marijuana and have their suppliers from within their institutions. Mishek is a student pursuing public relations, and he narrates how he started smoking weed.
At first, it was actually something basic, but it's something that's humongous, it's extreme. I actually started, smoking the so-called chamba. You call it marijuana, you call it weed, you call it nando. There's so many names, but for me, curiosity that I would see, not only from the environment, but even from the TV, movies, music videos. I had that curiosity. I wanted to try out how it feels to smoke weed. And then I just engaged myself with people who do that. Then before I knew it, I was on marijuana. Actually, it's so difficult engaging with people who do such things. If you look at our environments, talk of Lusaka, you walk out, just walk through the streets, you see someone, smoking. It might be a cigarette, it might be weed, but for me, I identified those people. Actually, I interacted with those people. I integrated with those people because they were kind of close when it comes to class. I actually started smoking when I went to school. So it was that kind of thing where your classmates comes to class, they smell like cigarette, they smell like weed, and I'm like, this smells familiar, because at times when you're passing in the street, you just smell the weed, then someone is just next to you, and you get that smell. I was like, dude, I want to try this. Then they were like, okay, you want to try this? We have to buy this. It's not cheap or anything. Like, you don't easily acquire it. So that's how I got involved with these people that were doing that, because someone who was sitting next to me, a friend actually, was smelling like weed. So before we even became friends, I realized something that I was craving for, something that I was curious about, which was the weed. Because I would see music. I love hip hop. I like watch music. I watch hip hop videos a lot, and then I would see the artists smoking weed and everything. And then the day came, I meet someone who smells like weed, and I was like, I would love to do that as well. Then he told me, you just have to buy at this price. So that's how.
What's the price?
It depends. It depends on the quality, because marijuana just doesn't come in like weak qualities. Okay, there are weak qualities and good qualities, but it depends on the price, because you find a source probably selling you at 10 kwacha, then you probably find another source selling you at 40 kwacha. That's what I'm talking about, the quality. So meaning the quality for 40 kwacha is the best. If you really want to satisfy your cravings, you definitely go for that good quality. It's like going to the market and then you just go, you see different items, assets, their qualities, they differ, there's fake and original. So when I say there's some for 10, there's some for 15, and there's some for 40 and 50, I usually go for the 50 and 40 because I want that good quality so that it can satisfy my cravings.
Another student, whom we have named Joshua, also explains how he was introduced to marijuana.
I think it was more of curiosity and not really having much to do, because growing up, I grew up in a setup where we're not exactly allowed to go outside and play and the like. Unless you go to school, you come back in the yard. So there's that burning curiosity. You had a few friends talking about it, and this was after school. This was after grade 12, because all my shenanigans per se started after grade 12. So you had those friends who talk about weed, you hear it in movies, you hear it in music videos. How they tell you drugs are bad, but then for some strange reason this drug is not being considered as bad as the other ones. So it was more of curiosity. I remember correctly, I think it was one of those things, because there'd be a time where when you come back from school, you will find like maybe half the day you've got nothing to do. So you'd find you have one of those things where one of your friends comes over, and then unfortunately it's one of those, it wasn't exactly peer pressure, because I had my own personal curiosity about the whole situation. And then, my friend brought me on to explain to me, I said, this calms you down, it relaxes you, it helps you sleep. Basically selling it. He was basically selling it to me as kids. And out of curiosity, they tell you, like on the internet, on TV, you read that, yes, these drugs are bad, but this drug is not as bad. So the curiosity to say, okay, this drug does most of the things these other drugs do, but it's not as dangerous, kind of made it a bit easier. And even when my friend said, there's this thing I've been wanting us to try, it was more of that, why not? Because it felt like more of a cigarette type of experience to me, even though I would say cigarettes are never my thing, but it was more of the same way we try out cigarettes is the same way I ended up trying out marijuana.
Mm-hmm. So how did it become, or when did it become habitual? Was it when you were now in college?
I think it became a habit way into my uni days, because I think between grade school and university of not doing anything, access was the limiting factor. You know, as much as I would like, no, I would like to experience that feeling again, but then to go somewhere and say, hey, can I have, you know, it's not like in other countries where our friends have developed to levels where you can just walk into a shop and say, hey, can I have this flavor, this flavor, this flavor, and they give you. So I think the hindrance was that it wasn't exactly easy to access. It was always, you know, it's drugs, it's hash, it's what. So I think it's only in my later years as an adult, I think in uni, that's where it became more accessible, because, you know, as university and colleges are, that's the most accessible place you have. That's the most experimental time in your life. So during that period, that's when it really became something that doesn't really a habit, because truth be told, it's rare to say somebody can be addicted to marijuana. I think it's more of a psychological addiction rather than a physical addiction to the drug itself. Yeah. So it didn't really become a habit. It became one of those, if I'm having a bad day, I'll need it. You know, the same way some people will have a beer at the end of the day, it became one of those, I need to smoke to make myself feel better at the end of the day. Well, it's like to be honest, it's like most drugs people use. All the drugs most people use is usually to escape something, to feel a certain way, to get a certain reaction. For some, they even say it heightens their creativity. So in most cases, in my scenario, I would say whenever I'm overstressed or their anxiety is getting the best of me, like, you know how there's some people who, if he's in a heated argument, and as soon as the argument finishes, he walks out of the room and goes to smoke a cigarette. So it's kind of the same trickling effect. When you feel pressured, scared, depressed, it kind of counters whatever you're feeling at that moment. So whenever a negative feeling begins to surface, like maybe I'm feeling anger, anxiety, I'm scared, I'm overthinking, I'm stressed, it's, for lack of a better term, most people would call it a drug. You know what I mean? Like, you'll be going through all sorts of problems, but once you just smoke 2 or 3, it's like, whatever is troubling me in my life for now, it can hang. So I think that's what usually, it's like an escape of sorts.
When it comes to my schoolwork, I usually use marijuana to just calm my nerves. You know, school is a busy place. It's a busy environment. So many interactions with different people. So when I'm sober, when I haven't smoked, I just feel like I'm not myself. I feel out of place. So when I get to smoke weed, let's say I smoke it in the morning when going to school, or even during classes, because I do that most of the time. I go to class. I'll be focused, you know. There were so many things on my mind. But, you know, after smoking the weed, I'll be there focused on one particular subject. It's either it's going to be what the lecturer is telling me, or it's either it's going to be what my friend is telling me, you know, or it's either it's going to be what my, you know, what the girls are saying. I just get focused. But when it comes to schoolwork, when it comes to studying especially, I love it when I smoke, then I have a group discussions with my friends. I focus on what we have to discuss, on what we have to discuss about. Talk of past papers. I'll be there so focused on a past paper. If it means using extra, you know, like extras, meaning Google, we'll be there. I'll be focused. In short, when it comes to my schoolwork, I get focused. But I can't say I'm always focused, because there are times, like I said earlier, if I'm able to get weed for 50 kwacha or 40 kwacha, and then I haven't bought myself, let's say, food, I'll be traumatized a bit. I'll be disturbed because I haven't gotten food. Let's say I smoke weed for 50 kwacha, the quality is too good, and I'm not able to buy myself food, and then I go to class. I'll be disturbed because I'll be yawning the whole time. So that is going to affect me in a kind of way that I won't concentrate. The only thing I'll be thinking about is food. But let's say if I smoke that weed for 50 kwacha, for 40 kwacha, we call it cheese. It's really good. We call it cheese. If I get that, then I go to class, probably get some food with my friends. My mind will be on point. But if I smoke and don't get food, my mind won't be on point. So that's how it positively works and negatively works. It negatively works if I want to quench the other drives. If I want to quench the other thirst when it comes to hunger. Because my quality drives me to eating. Weed is nice. It will make you eat.
I would speak for myself personally, and I would say it's kind of helped me. I think the only downside to it, for my sake, is that sometimes it makes you waste a day. Because you find you smoke at 12 and that's it. You do not want to be productive at any point after that. But then it's also dependent on the strain. That's the funny thing about marijuana. There are some strains that when you smoke, all you want to do is just sleep, eat, watch TV. Then oddly, there's some strange that when you smoke, all of a sudden you think you're a dope rapper, or you think you're this good writer, or you think you're a good, it triggers certain things. So basically, depending on the strain you get, it will trigger certain things to you. So some will make you sleepy, just want to eat, some will expand your creativity. It just depends on how you take it. But then it's like any drug in the world. It depends on the type of body you have and how your body will take it. Yeah, but it's not something I would say when you take it, you become violent, you become crazy. Like there's exaggerated stories of saying, no man, I smoked and say running around naked. To be honest, I think the most it would do to you is just, you hear sounds that are not there, or you think someone has said something they haven't said, or you start smelling things that are not actually there. So the whole craziness of running around naked, I think people tend to exaggerate certain experiences. Yeah, you would do certain things like, forget your phone in the fridge, or look for your phone that is still in your hand. Those little lapses. But then, because it messes with your short-term memory, so the effects are not that drastic to say if you saw somebody who's done cocaine, you would say, no, this person is from doing cocaine. But with marijuana, you just forget. And most of the time, usually just quiet. That's the most telltale sign about marijuana. When we smoke or when somebody smokes, they become instantly quiet. That's when you're not, this person, too quiet, eyes are red. Yeah.
In school, I definitely smoke in school.
Publicly?
I wouldn't say publicly because this is a central business district, and there's so many. I'll call them shushus. By shushus, I mean the DEC. They're everywhere. And my school is just next to the central police, so we don't smoke publicly. We've got where we smoke from. We call them depots. We call them shoe spots. It's a place where nobody will find us when we're smoking. That's where we smoke from. We don't smoke publicly because it's dangerous.
So are those true spots within campus?
Yeah, most of them are within campus.
To be honest, it depends on the scenario and where you're coming from. But if I'm being bluntly honest with you, it's reached a scenario where some people do it openly. Like, for example, in campuses, you find all you have to do is just go by the balcony at a certain time, maybe in the middle of the night, just light. Even some people who are brave and don't even care about, I don't know which families they come from. There are certain people who are not really afraid of what they do in life. So you find he's simply one friend will light a cigarette here, the other friend will light it. So, and then the thing is, these days, it's not like back in the day where marijuana used to smell like marijuana. You know what I mean? When you pass someone, like, pepe chambuk. These days, because of the types of marijuana we smoke, the scent is different. Sometimes it smells like a spice. Sometimes it will smell like something is burning, but it won't give you that distinct marijuana smell that we're all used to, because the strains that come these days are now so vast and so different. You don't really get that this is marijuana that's smoking. So people do smoke it in public, admittedly, and some, they do find obvious to be as ways of doing it.
Let's get to who plugs you with the drugs.
That is surprised you know that way. Well, it depends. Like, for example, in campus, we unfortunately have a place called Maripodi, which is just next door, and usually that's where most people get their thing. I mean, it's just next to Intercity, so you find, I don't know how it finds itself at Intercity or why they chose the Intercity area. Maybe because it's the bus terminus, but then all the areas surrounding the Intercity itself, because you find little boarding houses here and there. So it seems certain plugs have positioned themselves to make sure they're in a place where it's very busy, there's a high rate of students. So basically that's where they're positioning themselves to say Intercity is the best place. And to say who plugs me, like I said, usually one of those things, you just walk outside. These people know each other, they know you, and it's one of those things that just walk up to him. Sometimes you need to speak to him. You just give him the money he gives you and off you go. It's almost scary how free it is, especially the fact that it's being done at a place called Intercity, and if I'm not mistaken, that's just meters away from Central Police. You know what I mean? So you can't really understand the concept that goes on around the entire process. I think that's what actually makes it even easier for people who do it to just say, you know what, I don't think it's be that serious anymore. You know what I mean? It's not as scary as cocaine or as heroin, where in other countries they find you with it, arrested, and you're killed. So I think the fact that even our laws are not exactly lenient, they're sort of bent, because you find, no, this person was caught 2 days later, they've been released. So it's like the rules are becoming a bit looser these days. So I think, yeah, that's what I can say about getting it and the like.
Sourcing at this level, for me, sourcing is not hard. It's either I've got a plug within school, and if that plug is not within school or from my hood, we usually go to the so-called Chivolia. Yes, but going there again is a hassle. I mean, it's hard. You have to go there smart. If it's not Chivolia, we usually get our weed from Kamwala or Intercity. That's why we source. But we usually have plugs in school, because even my plug in school is just trying to, it's trying to survive by selling weed. And the weed he sells is not cheap weed.
Well, like every product, no matter what it is, like it's a good product, a bad product, a legal product, it has different variations and prices. From what I've heard, from what I've seen, I think a lot of people have strayed away from what used to be bought. Is it from Chivolia? Because Chivolia, you have those little balls in plastics and the like. So I think people have sort of moved away from that culture of, and I think that's where the problem comes in, because most people have the perception of marijuana as in being that dirty drug for people with, just rough people who are the ones who smoke it. It's the type of persona it's created. So these days, I don't know how, but because of how, what's the word I can use? Not really free, but how society is now, we even have people who are able to import these things. So you find you actually get better quality, because aka require 5 kwacha kabola, 10 kwacha kabola. These days you find what do they measure it in? They measure it in grams? Grams. So you find 60 kwacha a gram, 70. If it's what they call high grade, you find it's 150 a gram, 200. Some can even be as much as 250 for a gram. So I think depending on the quality and what the person who's selling you has told you about it, because sometimes you even read about it. He'll just tell you, no, but bro, what I brought you today is orange whatever. You go on the internet, you read, okay, orange whatever, it does this, it does this, it does this. From what you read, you even say, yeah, it's worth my 150. Even if it's like a little thing that he's giving you, because of what you've read it in music videos, it has that sort of culture to it, because it kind of sells itself.
The non-smokers were asked to give their thoughts on what should be done to refrain students from smoking, and these are some of the reactions we got.
What I think should be done is, the best thing they can do is, mostly what we young adults are usually looking for is just somebody that we can actually talk to, and instead of them just listening, at least they can even try to pretend as though they actually understand what we're going through. So I would say what they would do is make it more comfortable for us to talk to somebody, bring in more counselors in college, knowing and all that, but they need to be somebody that can actually try and relate to what we're going through.
I think we should have people educating us on the dangers of substance abuse and alcohol abuse. They need to learn the consequences of taking them.
That is not currently happening in your institution? Isn't there a policy of that nature?
No, it's there. It's there, because I remember when we had orientation, we had people from DEC. So they do know.
So
they know what they're doing. I would say they're ignorant about everything.
What did the people from DEC say?
Well, they were telling us about the risk of drug abuse, what it does to our bodies and to our mental health, everything. They told us about everything. I should say so. Plus, we are adults, we are not children, so obviously we do know that the thing that we are doing is wrong, but they choose to do it either way.
The smokers, on the other hand, were asked if by any chance they were willing to stop smoking.
I've been through a lot of conversations with different people when it comes to stopping it, but I haven't reached that level where I feel like I want to stop, because I love it. I won't say I'm addicted. I love it because it makes me focus. As I said earlier, I focus on whatever I have to do. So when it comes to stopping, I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. If it means actually someone actually referred me for rehab. My response was, if you take me for rehab, things will definitely become worse. Because I can't go for rehab, because rehab will just make me worse. If I go for rehab for 6 months, I come back, I'll have that craving for 6 months. And if I go back to the same thing, what's the whole point of going for rehab? That's wasting money. You can't start paying thousands of money for me to go to rehab. When I feel like I want to stop weed, I'm going to stop that weed. Because I've been lectured, I've been scolded about weed, I've been told this and that. My mind and heart towards weed has been positive. It's because I haven't affected society in any way when I smoke weed. I don't go out there in society and just trouble people, bug them about what. I just maintain my cool when I smoke weed. I just do my own thing. That's how positive it is. So if I feel like my muscles, if I feel like my brain, if I feel like my body is tired with the weed, I'll just blow the whistle and just cool and just like stop.
That's the thing. Like, I would say I'm willing to stop if it was like for example, the way I drink alcohol, the way people drink alcohol. With alcohol, you can reach a certain point where you just say, I think this is no longer making sense for me. You know what I mean? And you stop. Obviously, it won't be an abrupt stop, but mentally you know yourself that if I used to drink every day when I knock off, I'll have a beer. I've stopped. It's easy to do that. But for marijuana, it's sort of one of those things where you don't need to smoke every day. You can go 2-3 days. So it's hard to tell yourself that I have stopped when you come from a scenario where you find maybe for 2-3 days or even 2 weeks you haven't smoked. So you know what I mean? It's different from alcohol that you say every weekend you drink. You know what I mean? But for marijuana, because for some people they can space to say when he smokes once a month or once a week or on special occasions or maybe when he's going to see a girl, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things to say I'll stop completely, I would be lying. To say I would stop, if a really good reason presented itself to say, you know what, smoke or else you're going to be killed, like the way they do it in Asian companies if you're caught, Asian countries. Yeah, if there's a really detrimental reason, I would, but give or take right now, I'm not hurting anybody, nobody's hurt, it's my money. My academics are okay, my grades are not exactly the way I would want them to be, but then this is university, as long as you're passing, it's good enough. So it's one of those things, just keep around basically. To say abruptly stop, it would be a vague answer to give.
If the DEC was to come into campus and start a program of rehabilitation, but still allowed you to smoke, would you be volunteering to attend?
Yes.
I think a lot of people would volunteer for a certain level of controlled counseling. Because like I said, it's not a physical addiction that comes with marijuana, it's more of psychological. Because you feel you can't deal with the way the day is going, like, I'm so stressed, I need to smoke, I'll feel better. It's different for, sadly, alcohol. But there's some situations where alcohol, you find someone hasn't drunk in the morning, they're shaking, you know what I mean? For marijuana, if you haven't smoked in the morning, you just be irritated, you wish you can smoke, but then, So if they could come and say, you know what, if there's some people who want to stop and are willing to stop, I think it would be a 50-50 thing. Because I think some people even just do it for the ambience, to seem cool. Like imagine, actually, some people actually try to smoke marijuana just to seem cool. So I think, given the rate of people who actually do it for genuine reasons and the people who do it for,
if they come up with a program where they'll tell me that, but I can still smoke whenever I want, when I have that craving, I'll go for that. Because I think that's what they're actually supposed to be doing. Unlike harassing people whenever they found them with weed. Late last year, I think most nations around the world were discussing about
criminalizing.
Yeah, the marijuana, like reducing the sentence and the crime and everything. I love that because that motivated so many people to respect what they do when it comes to it. Because trust me, DEC will be there, they'll find you with a small amount of it. They'll press charges on you that are not even necessary. So after that summit they had, decriminalizing weed and everything, reducing the sentences and the crime and everything, I was so happy because that also motivated me to say I will smoke weed in a professional way. Because at least something has started from top. By the time it will reach in Zambia, things will be soft. So if DEC was to come up with that program where they would lecture us, if it means every weekend, but when we crave, we can smoke. I can go for that because I believe as time goes by, eventually I'll be able to cut all the ties of it. So long as I know deck is safe with me. Because at times I do smoke. If I know I know it's private, it's not public, we're smoking, but I have that fear saying, what if deck pulls up? But if deck says you can smoke, but come to the office on the weekend, we'll talk to you, I'll be cool with that.
I think they should educate them more, they should put in more effort in educating them on the dangers of alcohol and substance abuse. Yeah, and also they should change their approach, how they approach students. Yeah, I feel like if they approach them in a welcoming way, in a nice way, they would open up to them, and maybe, just maybe, they might give in to counseling and maybe change in the future.
I would say, brother, my appeal would be, instead of like them, when they feel or think they're supposed to like take action, let them not make it seem so dramatic, where because you haven't taken any action, and then the time that you do get to, you make it seem so big that you frighten the students or anything like that. That would just like lead to more damage, and that won't be good for anybody. But just put it into consideration that you actually do get to find a way of just like having time to talk to us, the students.
My advice would be those cravings that you're having for weed, just brush them off, avoid them, avoid those cravings, because those cravings are small right now. By the time they'll be extreme, they'll be humongous, you won't be able to recognize who you are. That's if you don't know how to take this. These things are so dangerous. It requires, awareness, as I said. It requires discipline. It requires respect for your cravings. So if you're craving for weed or anything at the moment, can you please just try to crave for something else and not the weed? Because the marijuana is going to mess up your life, especially the social life. My social life was affected before because of marijuana. Until I figured out I have to respect my cravings. Until I figured out I need to be aware of whatever is going around when I'm high. The coffee days and the courage and everything. So if you're craving, can you please have cravings for something else and not the weed? I've been through a lot for the past 8 years when it comes to weed. It's a matter of life and death. Weed just sounds light and easy. We sit on TV, but it's really hard. And it involves investing. If you really want to quench that thirst, you really have to invest. And if you're one person who's craving but cannot afford to get weed at 50 kwacha, just think about something else. Actually, 50 kwacha there are other people who even sell weed at 200, at 300, 600. Depends on the quality, as I said. So if you're having that craving and you can't afford to get that weed that will quench your thirst, you just think about something else. Because trust me, it is positive in some type of way, but if you haven't started, don't start.
Like, it's not really anything to be excited about, to be honest. It's not different from having a beer and you feel a bit high and you calm down. It's your body feeling some sort of way that is not normal to it. So you won't miss much. Yes, I think the best way I can just end the conversation is just say, if you're having those cravings, you're curious, it's not really worth it. Like, the high does not outweigh the consequences, which would be the lows, you getting caught with it, you being arrested, your education ending. It's not really worth it. It's one of those, hey, I went for a party, I had a beer, you come back home, your life goes on. So there's nothing much that I'm missing. So one of those where if you smoke, you see the world in different colors. It's not a high to write about. Yeah, you get high, you feel a bit good every now and then, but it's nothing to throw your life away for.
Anything you want to add on?
Well, the government could legalize and commercialize it. That's all I can say.
Efforts by the Digest team to get a comment from the higher learning institutions was futile. The truth on the ground is that Intercity Bus Terminus is a hub where plugs get their cheese and distribute it to students at the higher learning institutions.
Well, that's it. That's all the time we had for you on the Digest. Would like to beckon on parents as well as the authorities not to turn a blind eye to such stories, because if they get out of hand, it could really be uncontrollable, and that's not what we want for our country. So to the Drug Enforcement Commission, please do more sensitization in terms of drug abuse around these institutions, especially the institutions of learning. Would like to hear your feedback from you, our viewer. Tell us what you think about that story. You can send us an email at documentaries@diamondtvzambia.com. From me, Francesca Piribanda, and my crew, thank you for watching. Goodbye and stay blessed.